I only have a 2 cents. My 2 cents leads into your hip hop corner. I gotta get something off my chest about
So
a
are
rap.
we gonna do 2 cents and then the hip hop corner?
Hip hop corner then 2 cents.
Okay.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Can We Talk? It's me with about 2/3 of the usual suspects. Hello, Nicole.
Hey.
Hey, Shayna.
What's going on?
What's going on today? You know, and it's last but not least, it's me, Anthony, at Reluctant Movie Buff on Instagram. I just want to say, for anybody that says I don't contribute to the feminist culture, I brought two smart, intelligent women to this podcast, so you know.
Well, I appreciate
that.
the compliment.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you, because you know I do it for the culture, and culture is the key word today, dealing with our theme. But before we get into that, I guess we're gonna. Shayna, you know, so much happened over the last 2 weeks since we met. I feel like everybody, MGK, Eminem, Cardi B, they all got together in a way and said, hey, there's this podcast in Royal Oak. There's this woman named Shayna. She needs some news for her segment, so let's all act a fool.
Let's just do it.
You know what I mean? Let's all act a fool. So
Seriously, though, what is going on? I feel like every half hour I'm reading something new in hip-hop.
Yeah.
Let's just get into it. Shayna's hip hop
We'll
corner.
start with Eminem. He dropped a surprise album.
Yes.
I woke up. What is it? I woke up Friday morning and saw that he dropped the album. Did you listen to it?
I did listen to it, and that's part of my 2 cents. But I'd say that not bad. I feel like I still feel the best album post Encore is Recovery, but I feel like this is a close second. I feel like it was just Eminem just rapping, not overthinking it, but he made some new enemies in the process.
Yeah. Machine Gun Kelly, MGK. He fired back with a diss record. Did you hear it?
I heard the diss, and you know what? Most people just say, you know, I respect him for replying back, but I'd say as good as an MGK diss is, that's what it was. My man stood up for himself. Some people say, oh, he's going to get eaten alive. I don't know, man. I feel like either way, if Eminem does or doesn't respond, I'd still be okay with it.
But do you think on the song where Eminem, like, do you think he, like, dissed a lot of rappers through omission when he said, like, you know...
See, here's the thing. You got to look at it in certain aspects. Some people he directly dissed. He called Tyler, you know, a faggot, which the album bleeped out for some reason. I'm like, if he says something that ignorant, we going to know he said it, so just let him be ignorant. You know, and then with other people, he said, I can see why people like me and not Lil Yachty, which is okay. It's just not my style, not a diss or something like that. And then even at one point, you know, if you listen to the Joe Budden record, you know, he got a Joe Budden. It's like some people he inadvertently dissed. He called out the Renegade feature, and I'm like, we know how old that song is. It's like he was grasping at straws to prove the legend he was.
Old enough to vote.
Right, like we're grasping at straws here to prove how much of a legend you are. It's like Eminem, your legacy is solidified. You don't really have to prove anything, which is where I'm conflicted. But
Yeah, Joe Budden responded on his podcast. I saw the Breakfast Club interview prior to, and Joe Budden was saying that he's done, like he's like retired from rapping. So that was the only way that he could respond was on his podcast. He said he's not rapping anymore.
Do you agree that he's done more for this genre than Eminem in a decade, like he said? In this decade, he said.
In this decade?
Right.
As far as what? Like rappers being able to rebrand themselves?
We could look at it that way. He says, I've done more than you in this decade. I couldn't say that before then, but this decade I've done more than you.
I don't believe that that's true.
Yeah, I thought that was debatable.
Yeah, it's definitely debatable. He has rebranded himself, but as far as him doing more for rap, I think it's kind of, he was part of the fusion between like hip hop and reality shows because he was on Love and Hip Hop a while ago, about 6 or 7 years ago. But other than that, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
Nicole, you got something to weigh in here?
I haven't listened to the album yet.
I feel like with the Eminem MGK disc, before we move on, I feel like it was a meme I saw on Facebook that was funny. It's like Eminem, you had this complex verse going at Machine Gun Kelly, And then with MGK, you had this kid looking funny saying, "Dude, your beard looks weird," and that was his only reply. Like I feel like you're going against someone that's known for trolling. I mean, Eminem used to be a classic troll, and it's just like I feel like it's kind of karma, because I don't know. I feel like I don't know if it's gonna match up to anything. I don't know if it's gonna amount to anything. I don't even know if Eminem's gonna respond, but I'd be okay either way.
They said he already did respond because he was going to play some track and then he like posted a video of him just playing Pac-Man for like 7 minutes on Instagram.
I think that was like a teaser, though. I think that was like the calm before the storm.
Yeah, that's what they called it. So, I mean, I think he's setting up to do something.
Okay. Hold up. Moment of silence for Mac Miller. Mac Miller passed away by an apparent overdose. I don't like how some people tried to like identify him in the news headlines. Like some people said Ariana Grande's ex-boyfriend. Like that really kind of like upset me a bit because I mean this guy has a body of work and he's critically acclaimed. So to have someone like labeled as an ex-girlfriend, as an ex-boyfriend at the announcement of their death, I mean it's a little offensive to me. What did y'all think?
I didn't see that. I did see on Twitter where a lot of people were blaming her.
Yeah, that's
not
mostly
right
what
either.
I've been seeing. And she did say something back like it was a toxic relationship. She had to do what was best for her and walk out.
Yeah, she said that prior to him passing away, they were, how Twitter is, saying that this is kind of your fault why he is like this, and they're like she was like I had to get away, which I agree with. I feel like she did the right thing, and this is not her fault.
Social media is dangerous, man. You're too close to these celebrities.
I mean, the bigger you are, the more eyes are on you, the more people are gonna point fingers at you.
And Ariana Grande is big.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's big, and she not to steer the conversation away from Mac Miller, but she's had a lot going on, like bad things like attached to her name throughout her career that I don't think she necessarily deserves.
Yeah, I think no, like you shouldn't easily blame somebody for somebody's death. Like this is serious. This is somebody passed away in the world, and you're blaming somebody else. Do you know how that makes them feel when you say it's their fault, even if it isn't? And then I feel like words are taken too lightly in this culture.
Yes, I agree. But back to Mac Miller. This is incredibly sad. He was 26.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's how old Eminem was when he dropped his debut album out, as well as Jay-Z. So he basically had his whole career ahead of him, and like he could only get better from this point.
Right, his life and his career.
Correct.
Even J. Cole kind of reached out and said, "Hey, if there's anybody else in this rap game that is going through something, reach out to me directly and let's talk." That's reiterating the KOD theme, the kids on drugs theme. All right. So I guess we're done with that subject. Rest in peace, Mac Miller, and peace to the Mac family.
Condolences to everybody that loved him.
Yeah. So Cardi B here. I've heard 3 different versions of this tale, man. I've heard Cardi didn't even. Well, I'm gonna let you just summarize what happened.
Well, like you said, there are different narratives. Like they're saying that she was trying to fight Nicki Minaj, and then they're saying that she was trying to fight Nicki Minaj's friend Raleigh.
Right. They both knew each other on Love and Hip Hop.
Yeah. So yeah, but you can't really gauge that from the footage. Air quotes.
Oh, I haven't seen the footage.
Oh yeah, there's footage of you can just hear Cardi B like, come over here.
I heard she was just going to talk to Nicki, and then like Nicki's bodyguard elbowed
right.
her.
Yeah.
And then that's what like set everything off, because you can see like Cardi B with that huge welt on the side of her head, which is now an internet meme because everyone's making something about it.
Yeah, like I saw a meme that was like, I will, like on her head, and basically not, like I will not, like you better not, like on her forehead. But when I like talk to people about it, they are like, well, like that, like it's kind of been brewing, and no, Cardi B shouldn't have acted out in that way, but like. I've heard like really nasty things about Nicki Minaj, like about what she does behind the scenes.
Well, come on, air it out. I mean, this is your corner here.
Well, I just heard that she kind of like tries to sabotage like people's careers. Like, oh, if you work with her, then I won't work with you anymore. And Nicki Minaj is huge.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty big, so
I feel like there's there's a kind of a sense of paranoia with her though, because even with the whole Travis Scott thing, I mean, the whole thing was unnecessary. You know, even if you sell shirts and you purchase a shirt and get a copy of the album with the shirt, that's still a sale.
yes.
That's marketing. How can you hate on that? I mean, I still don't understand her argument in the whole situation about saying I'm number one, he's not.
But the way they count record sales now, it has changed so fast. Like within the past, like since she came out, how long has she been out? Like since 2010, back when you had to sell hard copies of an album, but now you can sell concert tickets and merchandise. And then streams, and then also hard sales are a part of album sales now. But like with the streaming, like there is no like set way to calculate that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I get her frustration, but the whole blaming it on Travis Scott and a baby, his baby.
Yeah, like, why call out the baby? I mean, come on. Like, I hate it when they bring kids into this.
Yeah, so that wasn't necessary. But the whole the Cardi B / Nicki Minaj fight, yeah, it's something that's kind of been brewing.
It has, but I mean, is it worth it? I mean, is it worth it?
No, it's never worth it. And I'm sure that Cardi B is not the first person who has persevered from sabotage. Because they were, I don't want to really get into that. It's not hip hop, but yeah. So, and I think Cardi B is an industry plant, so you can't sabotage her. I feel like there's a lot of money being invested in her, and these people are expecting a return on their investment. So there's no way that you can sabotage her.
It's an interesting point. My 2 cents was going to be about Marshall Mathers, but I'm gonna bypass that. I really want to talk about the Nike ad.
Mm-hmm.
So Nike is going to air an ad. It's already leaked, but they're going to air an ad with Colin Kaepernick. Basically,
It's already aired.
It already came on?
Yeah, it's already aired. The whole entire ad, like they didn't edit it in because the ad is like over 2 minutes long.
Okay. Well, it's basically Colin Kaepernick saying, stand up for what you believe in, stand for what's right. And people, most likely people who don't agree with kneeling at the flag or burning their Nikes and not supporting Nikes anymore, or saying they're supporting Converses, which is still ran by Nike.
By Nike.
And, I guess my 2 cents on the whole situation is, why, what really is the opposition here? Is it because is it a Trump thing? Is it just like you're too patriotic to understand the meaning behind why he's kneeling in the first place, or to even like try to understand it? What is the opposition here? Because I'm still lost.
I don't think that's being a patriot. I think Colin Kaepernick is a patriot because he's speaking for Americans who don't necessarily. He was speaking for Americans who necessarily didn't have a platform. There's nothing patriotic about burning things.
No, I think it kind of all roots back to being racist.
Yeah, but that's like the easy answer. I want to know what's the root of this? Like, what's the root of this, like, racism or this prejudice towards this thing? Because I just simply cannot understand it.
Because I am of the belief that, with, like, Colin Kaepernick and other athletes, like, I don't think that playing sports, like, that's not your job. Your job is to put people to sleep, like, so that they can live vicariously through you and not really look at what's going on. Like, a lot of people, like, their lives are football.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't want to, like, they probably don't want to hear anything about social justice, about when they're trying to be entertained.
Right, that makes sense.
And they're like, well, that's not what they're paying you for. It's a sense of entitlement, but it roots back to racism.
One of my friends on Facebook posted an article that the American Snipers, Chris Kyle, his wife had posted it. And she's very upset over the whole Nike supporting Colin Kaepernick and, putting out this ad. And basically what she's saying is, what do you lose? Because the whole title is, about that.
Sacrifice.
Yeah,
everything.
sacrifice. And she's like, you lose a top-paying job, and it's just a job at the end of the day because her husband served in the Army or whatever he was in.
There's a lot of controversy. I read American Psycho. I did not watch the movie, but I did.
It's all right. It's all right.
But I did read the book, and there's I recommend anybody read the book or listen to the audio book like I did. But there's a lot
Audible.
of controversy surrounding that book. Questions of authenticity because he did have 2 co-writers on the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did make up a story about what's his name? The wrestler that's
Kurt Angle,
No.
John Cena,
The wrestler that became a politician.
Jesse Ventura.
Yes. There's a story in there. He left his name out of the book, but in an interview he said that it was Jesse Ventura, and Jesse Ventura sued him and won. He was like, because he said that he punched him in the face. And Jesse Ventura was like, you couldn't have never have punched. We've never been in the same room together. Like, there's no way you could have punched me in the face. I have he said he had like a blood disease, and then he was showing pictures of himself, around the time where he said that he punched him in the face. He's like, I have a blood disease, so if you punch me in my face even lightly, it would show up on my face. So he sued him in court, and he won. So, yeah, there's a lot of controversy surrounding that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I recommend everybody read that book.
American Sniper.
American Sniper.
Well, what's the book to counter argue it that we should read after?
I don't know. You should read the book. He it was weird to me that he spent pages and pages and pages talking about what he did with his friends the night before his wedding, and then his wedding was like a paragraph.
Men.
Yeah. I know. We don't always
And
get
he
it right.
also said that he sniped looters, air quotes, during Katrina. But that hasn't been, verified.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And those are American citizens.
Right. Yeah, but that was the whole thing. Like, when I read that article, I thought,
The gall.
yeah,
The
like
nerve.
the whole reason why you guys fight was so Colin Kaepernick can fight for his freedom.
Kaepernick.
And I can't pronounce last names
It's all
well.
good. It's all good.
I know him. I just face. But yeah, it upset me, and it was more upsetting because it was one of my friends who I'm like, why are you supporting this? Please delete your Facebook.
Ever since Trump got in office, people been showing their ass on Facebook. I've seen people just fall out with people that they have been friends with for a lifetime. They've fallen out with siblings. You can see the spec on Facebook.
You're always going to see something you don't agree with on Facebook now, and I've accepted that, and I've also accepted everyone's going to have their different beliefs. I just wish that you would keep them to yourself so I don't have to judge you.
Right. Well, that's what unfollow's for. If you still want to be friends with them, or just unfollow them.
She's like my best friend.
That's like a magical button, though.
That.
It's a magical button.
All right, let's rein it in. Let's go to our key topic. So I feel in this day and age, even before Trump got in, I feel like cultural appropriation, it's real, and I think we've been guilty of being on either side of it. So I wanted to have an open, honest discussion today. Eric, I know you're on leave. I wish you would have called in, man, because I wanted to have an open, honest discussion of our thoughts about this. So what's both of your definitions of cultural appropriation? Let's start there.
I feel, or did you want to go?
I'll have a simple definition. For me, it's taking something from another culture and claiming it as your own.
Okay.
Or monetizing it, where the people that you took from, the culture that you've taken from, they aren't necessarily in a position to monetize it, or it's viewed as negative from the initial culture, but when you take it, you are able to monetize it or turn it into something positive in the eyes of the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting. I also look at it as, taking something from a culture, but you're not willing to accept that all of the culture. You just want to accept that one part of the culture and claim that as your own. That could also be another. There's many definitions and many interpretations as to what this is. Do you guys, before we get into the examples on where we might have been guilty of it, because I know I've been guilty of it. I know I have. Mm-hmm. What's the example of when you were on the other side of it? You were the victim.
The victim? I don't know.
I know this is happening to you, Shayna.
Not me personally, but I know that I worked in retail, and I've worn braids, French like cornrows to work.
Box of braids.
Yeah, or box braids or cornrows to work, and that was like deemed as quote unquote unprofessional at a home improvement store.
What?
Yes. And then you see white women, or like I've been told that like, oh, you have Bo Derek braids. Like Bo Derek, I know who Bo Derek is, but like
that did not start with Bo Derek.
It didn't start with her. And then you have like a Kim Kardashian or a Khloe Kardashian. They'll wear braids, and then it's like, oh, this is beautiful. This is something new, even though we've been wearing braids for centuries.
Okay. Nicole, I know you got an example, like somebody trying to appropriate the feminist culture. Or like,
okay. I'm white.
Well, no,
I'm
no,
sorry, I don't
hold
experience this
No.
often.
It can happen to white people too. Now.
Yeah, I know it can. It's just not as easy to point out, I guess, coming from my end. The feminist culture. I have nothing.
You never had somebody try to claim that life when they're not really about that life. There's like a motive behind it.
I feel like we had to talk about this the other day, but I'm drawing a blank.
Macklemore and Kesha, something about clown on somebody or something like that. Remember you said you saw a picture of a woman and she had a clown on her neck or something, like a tattoo of a clown, and your friend, like, you don't remember. I'll come back to you. Okay, so my example, a friend of mine worked at a power plant, and there's another friend. My friend is black, and she has another person that works for her that's white, and they're cordial. I say they're acquaintances. So one time she came to my friend's office and said, "Hey, let me borrow a pen." My friend said, "Okay, here you go." The other friend said, "Okay, thanks. Bye, Felicia." And my friend was kind of a little messed up about that. Like, did you just call me Felicia? She was like, "Oh yeah," and she just walked away. But my friend felt a certain way because the whole thing with Bye Felicia, I feel like I understand the joke behind it, and it is meant to be harmless. But like when you watch the movie Friday, I mean, Felicia was...
She was a
crackhead.
She was a drug addict.
She was a crackhead. and I know when you say that, most people haven't even seen Friday when they say it, or they probably got it from that one-off scene in Straight Outta Compton, so they don't know. So they just say it, in good fun. But I felt like my friend was offended. Like shit. I feel like you gotta have permission as a white woman to say that to a black woman. I'm like, you gotta have permission, because I was really asking her. She's like, yeah, I felt like like that was a little offensive to me. Because do you even know who Felicia is,
or where it came from?
No, and
Right.
a lot of people don't know.
Right. I mean, there's something. What do we say about that though? I mean, like it felt like it's like back in the day, like when you used to say, "Oh, this is so gay." You know what I mean? Like where did that stem from? Could you just call that young immaturity, or was that an inherent, an unconscious, homophobia we had when we were kids? Because I know I used to say that when I was in middle school.
Well, when you're a child, like, you're ignorant. Like, I would never say that now. I would never say that now. But I like, but I don't know where I got it from. Mm-hmm. Like, I honestly don't know where that came from. Honestly, when I would, say something like that. And then I was a child.
It's just because other people around you are saying it. And a lot of them probably got it from their parents, or, it all roots back to how they were raised and what culture they grew up in.
Right.
And if they're comfortable with saying it, kids repeat everything they hear, especially if, you're going to school, you're trying to make all these friends. It's peer pressure. So you start using it and you don't know the root behind it. You're just using it to fit in.
I feel like there's another thing too, like when I feel like certain phrases from the LBGTQ community did I say it right?
Yes.
I feel like they've become mainstream now, like throwing shade, like girl bye or boy bye. They've become mainstream now to like where, the straightest person could say something like that and not know that comes from a community that he can't adapt with or doesn't even know anything about. So that's kind of appropriating their culture as well. I feel like we need to be more aware of the things we do. Like a friend of mine that was going to be here today, she's a woman that's white. It's like she knows the film Friday, and she quotes Friday many times. She quotes a lot of rap songs. But she's come to the point where, like, let's say she says something good about a Tyler Perry movie, which she watches. She'll be told, just let black people have their movies. Like a black person has told her, just let us have our movies, all right? We don't really need the criticism or like.
Okay, so I have something to say about that too, and I
Go ahead.
thought about it too. So they just put Black Panther on Netflix, and I've already watched it like 6 times last week.
Right.
And the friend I watch it with, I always get really excited, and I do this little fist pump, and I just say Wakanda forever, because like I love everything about Wakanda, and I'm gonna let Marvel and Wakanda and Black Panther, that's their thing. But there's nothing wrong with me appreciating it. But it can also be seen offensive though, because my friend looked at me and he goes, "Oh my God, it's so cute seeing like a little white girl do that."
Well, that brings up another. Like, can you appreciate without appropriating?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who I feel like appropriate hip hop, and then there are people that are white who I feel like they appreciate it.
That's why I think that communication needs to be had. I feel like a friend of my friend, she can listen to T Grizzly, but she won't go where T Grizzly's from. But that's okay. That's okay because you're gaining an understanding through this piece of work
I'm
that's
not
called
going
music.
there either.
No, I understand that, but you're gaining a piece of work of where this guy's from or what he's been through his music. So, I mean, could you be seen as appropriating? I mean, that's based on a person that's on the outside looking in.
I don't know. I feel like I am guilty of cultural appropriation.
We all are.
I attended a thing called trap karaoke, and I feel like that's appropriation. Because if I was to go somewhere, if I was to go to the trap, a real trap,
right,
and do karaoke, and the police come in, everybody going to jail. But trap karaoke is in a venue, it's safe, there's security, things like that. And I do feel like things like trap karaoke, trap brunch, trap yoga, I feel
trap
like
dubstep, trap step.
Yeah, I feel like all of that is appropriation because like there's a lot of negativity associated with the real quote unquote trap, which is where they sell drugs. So I do feel like that is cultural appropriation.
Plus, it's called trap. We need to be more aware of that too. It's called trap. It's a trap. I mean, I'm serious. Like I'm serious. But yeah. In terms of that, I remember Young Jeezy spoke on trap dubstep. He's the king of trap next to T.I. and they're the kings. So when Young Jeezy spoke on it, he was like, yeah, I think it's a great thing merging trap with dubstep, but just understand, like, when I made this music, I was speaking about real-life experiences where my life was on the line, and now it's being mixed with the electronica form of music. I mean, he wasn't straight out saying it's cultural appropriation, but he was saying, like, yeah, I feel like the people who listen to this, they don't really know where the pain is with this music, but it's good that it's being recognized in that form.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine about Afropunk. It's a festival basically around, African Americans that are into punk culture as well. And like the recent event, because it's a festival that's been around for some years, but they recently just started charging for it. And there are a lot of people who probably wouldn't have gone there 5 years ago that are going there now. Like black people, they're not a monolith. And I don't feel like, it looks fun, but I don't feel like I'm entitled to that space just because I'm black. Because I'm not a part. There are people, black people that participate in punk culture every day. And people kind of shy away from that, the black lipstick, the spiky hair, the rock music. Like, we kind of shy away from that on a daily basis. And it's not right for me to go, oh, I'm going to this fun festival. to get some funnel cake and.
But why isn't it okay from you? Like, why do we feel like certain things are elitist and not welcoming to new members?
What do you mean? Why is it not okay? Why is what not like?
Well,
Me going to Afropunk?
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
have a
not okay
question.
because I'm not a part of the punk culture, and I don't participate in that culture on a daily basis.
what if
You can see
I were to go there though, because I just genuinely want to see what it's about and try it out?
exactly.
Would it be different if I went as myself, or would it be cultural appropriation if I go in knowing nothing about it and I do the whole 9 yards and wear the black lipstick and
Is there an unspoken rule where you got to prove yourself to be Afro?
yeah.
No, I just know that that's not my space. Like, that's not something that I participate in, like, on a daily basis. There's nothing wrong with those that do. And I feel like those that do, they need their space. And if they want to have an annual celebration, they should be able to do that with people and without people that don't participate in that culture showing up. And now it's being monetized where it wasn't being monetized before.
That's very interesting. That's an interesting take. Some people, yeah, I guess you can also take the stance that, well, I just don't feel comfortable. I can see that. Like, I'm a cinephile. My girl isn't a cinephile. We went to go see 2001: A Space Odyssey, where if you've seen that film before, it's very deep and it's very slow. I was just amazed by everything, because I was seeing a film I knew as a kid, like, on the big screen. And, like, I know 20 minutes in, she was like, what is this about, Anthony? Like is this going somewhere? I'm like, just sit back and enjoy it. I've been enjoying it for 20 minutes. Where is this going? And we kind of, there's a disconnect there between somebody who looks at cinema as an art form and who looks at cinema as entertainment. So I can understand, like, someone saying on the other side, like, well, that's just not my place. It's very interesting. I like that. So I remember one thing I was talking about with my friend is where on Halloween she was wearing a I think it's pronounced hijab or
Good job.
hijab for Halloween, and I remember she got called out for that, saying like, well, you're wearing this as a costume. Some people might wear this every day as part of a culture. And she felt bad about that and said, well, that wasn't my intention. I just think this is beautiful. That's why I was wearing this for Halloween. I didn't mean to offend. That takes me back to when Black Panther first opened. And I kept making that joke. I said, y'all, Can We Talk crew, we're going there in African garb. I don't care what y'all saying. But then I thought about it, like, closer to the date. Like, if I'm just wearing this for a Marvel movie, that's a little disrespectful because I don't know anything about this culture. And I know Wakanda isn't real, but at the same time, African garb is real and represents something that's real of a culture that I haven't even investigated my own self.
Yeah, African garb is real, and there are a lot of Black Americans that take a chance by wearing that, by infusing that in their daily attire. Like, when you wear that, like, you are making a statement. Like, this is what I wear. Like, there are a couple of people, they wear dashikis to work. And that's part of, what they wear to work. So I didn't, think it was appropriate for me. Like, I don't wear them every day. Like, for me to, I'm put one on and wear it for just a movie. Because I feel like there are a lot of people that, and I feel like it is pretty brave, who, infuse that into their wardrobe.
It is a brave statement. I feel like one day I do plan to go to Africa and learn about my roots. But I feel like before I even do that, I can't just do something like that for a Marvel film. It was a cultural event, believe me. Black Panther was a cultural event, but at the same time, let's be serious about it too. So I feel like, go ahead.
Is Black Panther itself cultural appropriation? The comic character was made by 2 white guys.
It was directed by a black man,
But
co-written
Like
by
the origins of the characters.
Yeah.
Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But, black people create white characters too. Is that cultural appropriation on our part?
Well, I mean, the one of the creators of the Black Panther comic, they was like, well, we need to this is something that needs to be done because they didn't have a black a black centered comic at the time. Like, they had little black black side characters, but not a main character.
Okay. You can have that, but when you have somebody like Ryan Coogler and I believe Joe Robert Cole, who co-wrote it, who expanded and bring it to real life and actually compare it to actual cultures in Africa and make it authentic in a way, but still Marvel, What do we say about that? Is that appropriation, or is that kind of bringing it more to a realistic sense?
I don't know. Like they were accused of cultural appropriation when the movie came out, and then the people who put the soundtrack out, they were criticized for not having a lot of African artists on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think they had maybe one or two.
Yeah, there are levels to this. So what do you say about that?
About
Do you think there is blame there, or do you think there's blame that's trying to be righted?
I think when you have a movie that's set in a fictional, African country, you should have more than one or two African artists on the soundtrack.
Okay. Nicole, what's your take?
This gets all too deep for me.
No, it's okay.
I just like to do everything like I never have like a bad intention with the things I enjoy and what I choose to say. I will always do a little more research though before I say them to make sure that because I don't use the term "bye, Felicia."
Mm-hmm.
I do know it's very popular. I have people who say it at work, just like, your friend does. And it is what it is. That's something they're enjoying. Do I think it can be offensive? Yes.
Depends on who's offended.
Yeah. And it's just, it's such a blurred line between what you're culturally appropriating and what you're not at this point. Because everyone is so different now. The gay community can claim things that actually started with the female community. It's too much. I just want to be happy and not judge people.
That's the thing. You can still be happy and still say Wakanda forever and be all happy and stuff like that. But it's at the end of the day, I think at some point there needs to be communication on where this stuff stems from.
Mm-hmm.
Like even like taking down the base word appropriation, like appropriate. What's culturally appropriate? I just think that's interesting within itself, where something you may think is appropriate for the situation may not be appropriate for a culture that you don't fully understand or haven't fully got into.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't fly to Africa and run around going Wakanda forever.
Of course not, but you know what I'm saying.
But
though.
back to Randy's question, Black Panther, it was created by two white guys, and what do they know about African culture?
What makes you think they didn't do their research?
It was the 60s.
They have encyclopedias.
But have you seen, and then like Killmonger, from the comics?
I think the genuine idea was to include all when, they decided to make Black Panther. You're getting sick of seeing all these white superheroes. We want to include more of the community in something. It's basically sharing the comic book culture with African Americans.
And then the comic, it debuted not too long before the formation of the Black Panther Party, and they went out of their way to distance themselves from
sure it's a superhero. I'm sure they would.
From the Black Panther Party. This is, we don't agree with this, and this is, we didn't, create the character, for this.
No, that is an interesting take to have. That's an interesting take to take. That's an interesting take to take. I guess what I got to say about it is I feel like even though it was created by two white guys, I feel like the film brought more of a realistic view to it because you went from Oakland, California to quote-unquote Wakanda, and Killmonger, I don't know how Killmonger was in the comics, but they made him more, racially motivated or more racially angsted. In his character development, which I thought was very smart of the writers. How was Killmonger in the comics? Do you know?
He was a savage.
Well, I mean, in what sense?
He was from Harlem. He was a he's a Black American villain, and then you have this African hero. So that could be argued as well. You have this, this Black American savage villain. It could be seen as anti-Black American.
But what if the African was savage? Wouldn't that be worse?
What do you mean?
If it was vice versa.
Would it be? Of course. We are still, trying to, cleanse ourselves of the, anti-African propaganda that's a continent full of savages. So, of course, that would be bad.
So do you not think that was the good move to
No,
not
it
have the
was
African
not.
and savage?
It was not. No.
So Black American hero and African hero, where's the villain?
What do you mean? Like, what's your question?
A superhero has to have a villain. If you got the
He
black,
could have. I mean, he has, African, hero like villains in the comics, but like the main villain is Killmonger, and he is African American.
right, in the movie, who was a young boy who was conflicted, left abandoned by his family.
But he's a villain in the movie.
Why did he become a villain? Because he was abandoned. It's hurt behind that. I don't know if that's what happened in the comics, but I'm talking about right now in terms of the film.
Yeah,
they tried to write it.
it stemmed from he was brought up in a bad area. He lost his dad, and then he finds out that his uncle killed his dad, and his cousin's living this awesome life where everyone's accepted.
Would that not mess you up?
I mean, yeah.
So I feel like with the film, there was a step in the right direction to add, like, accurate, well, not accurate, but to add, like, reasonable motivation behind why this guy was a villain.
Yeah. I mean, don't they all do that, though? Don't all movies do that with the villain?
My argument is to say that Black Panther, the film, attempted to bring it to a realistic, like level. Like, attempted to actually bring realism to the character of Black Panther. Whereas, can you still argue that it's cultural appropriation when they're trying to make it right, when they're trying to add some realism to it? Realism
to
the character. The film, the story.
I don't think that character. I mean, it's a comic book like villain. He's a made up. Like, he's a totally made up person. Like, he's a killer and he went to MIT, and he was part of JSOC. Like, do you know what JSOC is? It's like a group of elite killers that work for the government.
I know, but what we're saying is, you're saying like Black American villain. I mean, that you're
African
saying,
pure hero.
right? And I'm saying with this film, they attempted to like kind of block down those walls a little bit and add more complexity. I'm saying, is that not a step in the right direction?
I guess.
Okay,
I guess.
All right, I guess there was some resolution here.
All I know what to do is yell Wakanda forever and fist pump.
No, you're right. You're in the right place.
Okay.
You're doing the right thing.
Thanks.
So what do we feel about stay woke? I feel like that's been a little overused.
Yeah, I think, woke is definitely an overused term. And then, like, it's said for any, like little thing. Like, it's not used for people that necessarily do their research or have been doing their research or have been speaking out for a very long time against what's necessarily popular.
Do we feel like that there is a right thing to have a cultural police like Black Twitter? I feel like it is necessary in some situations, but some situations I believe are a little overblown.
For example?
Well, for example, I guess the Susan Sarandon thing. I mean, some people like kind of came at her when I forgot the specific event. I got to get back to you on that. But
Yeah, what did she do now? I'm freaking out. I love Susan Sarandon.
I don't know if it was recent, but I think like because she was such a like an anti-Clinton person, she didn't support Trump either. Let's be clear. You know, she did thank voters of color for passing something or voting for something that went through that they weren't credited for. And then they kind of said, Susan, take your apology back. You didn't support us during such and such. But I'd be like, if someone's trying to right their wrongs, or if somebody has did something recently that's right, that kind of overpowers or kind of makes up for what they did wrong or a little misleading in the past, then why bring up the past?
It depends on the wrong. Because I feel like
let me try to look at
like back to like cultural appropriation. I feel like one of the people that should not have been at Aretha Franklin's funeral was Bill Clinton. Like, a lot of people were saying that Farrakhan shouldn't have been there, but Bill Clinton shouldn't have been there.
Why?
The laws that he passed while he was in office that are still like affecting the Black community.
Well, go be
the Three
detailed.
Strikes Law that basically created mass incarceration. Mass incarceration wasn't a thing until he signed that bill.
Right. Some people criticize Obama for not being there, or at least not at least showing his face and being there. Some people criticize Ariana Grande for being there. A lot of people were criticized.
But I feel like that was more like of a scandal than her dress. like him being there. Like and he was introduced as the first black president. Like
I've never liked that joke.
I've never liked it either. But like he was introduced as the first black president, and he, rambled a little bit before he.
That's an interesting
left.
case of cultural appropriation there. Bill Clinton within himself. You got this Southern man who, black people, they like him. We like his charisma, we like his swagger and all that. But to call yourself the first black president, even in the days of having someone as Obama who is mixed but is still black, that is a little offensive. And I don't really like that joke either.
And then they call him the first black president because of all the the negative things associated with he cheated on his wife. That's something that's only regulated to the black community is infidelity.
Okay. So I guess the main thing was because Susan Sarandon was back in Jill Stein, some black people on black Twitter did not support what she was saying in terms of her saying, hey, thank you for voting for this. And African Americans in Alabama, you deserve the credibility. They clap back at her because she voted for Jill Stein, I think, or something that Jill Stein.
I
was trying
feel
to pass.
supporting Jill Stein as a white person, her running, she was the only candidate that wasn't afraid to say white supremacy and what white supremacy has done to the people of color in this country. And she was the only presidential candidate that said that we need reparations to mend what has happened in this country. When they asked Bernie Sanders about it, he said it's going to be too divisive and then left it at that. So I feel like if someone is for all Jill Stein's faults, she had a pro-black candidate in Baraka. And I feel like for a white person to publicly support her, you can say what you want. I wouldn't drag her for that. I begrudgingly voted for her. I did not want to vote for Hillary.
I feel like it was a lesser of two evils kind of situation.
But it's always that way in politics. And in the Democrats, this is a whole nother topic, but they're still running on that. And I think they need to run on something else.
I'd rather have a liar than a maniac. That's all I got. That was really what it came down to. And that was kind of sad. I was a Bernie dude, but it is what it is. What are final thoughts we have about this? What are your final thoughts on cultural appropriation? Just say Wakanda forever.
Yeah. Like I said, it's confusing. People are always going to be offended by other things. I mean, it's especially now with social media being as big as it is, and you can literally look at your phone and read what everyone's thinking. I think as long as you do research into something that you want to experience, and if you genuinely enjoy it and did your research and gave it the recognition it deserves, it's not considered cultural appropriation. If you're gonna take something from Friday or from a different culture and call it your own or make it your thing but not have the knowledge in the back of your head about it, don't do it. Just leave it.
I feel like it's important to have the conversation, but respect the other person's point of view. As far as if I say you're culturally appropriating something, don't fight me about why you should be able to do it. Just don't do it.
That's a little murky because it depends on what's being done. But okay, those are interesting conclusions. I say, do your knowledge, but don't take everything so seriously. Because we are living in a sensitive time. We are living in a sensitive culture. But I say, do your knowledge, understand each other, but again, don't take it too seriously because life is short. All right, this has been a great episode of Can We Talk? Eric, we miss you. Like and share, subscribe, the whole nine.